My uncle was a truck driver for 30 plus years, and he told us this story in the mid-80s about a route he was driving from Nashville to Chicago, then Chicago to San Francisco in the late 70s. According to his story, he was driving through a desert. I can't remember if he'd said it was Arizona or Nevada, but I digress. It was about 10 p.m., and he had been driving for 14 or 15 hours at that point. He said that, his words exactly, there hadn't been crap for 100 miles but sand, cacti, and snakes. His eyelids were starting to grow heavy, so he just pulled right over on the side of the road, headed back to his sleeper, and passed out. At around 2-ish, he was awakened to the sound of tapping right outside of his cab. Thinking it might be the Highway Patrol or Department of Transportation, he hopped into the passenger seat to grab his logbook before going to see who was knocking. As he grabbed his logbook, he heard the tapping again coming from the lower glass of his driver door, followed by a child's voice say, "Hey mister, we're thirsty and tired. Can we come inside?" He was suddenly struck with the feeling of absolute dread. He said it was so strong that he didn't even want to look to see who was speaking. Something you've gotta understand about my uncle, and the entire time I'd known him, I had never seen him scared of anything. I'd seen him charge headfirst towards a guy that had drawn a gun on him. I'd seen him literally attack an alligator that had gotten too close to my cousin when we all went on vacation to Florida one year. Nothing scared the man. However, even years after this incident, as he was telling the story to us, you could see the fear in his eyes. He said that he had tapped on the glass again and asked once more to be let inside. Against his better judgment, he looked over at the glass and then just froze. He said they looked like any normal kids, if a little pale, but it was their eyes. If you haven't guessed by now, their eyes were solid black. He described them as seeming to have eyes, but also not have eyes, and yet felt like they were staring right through him, through his lower glass. He immediately yelled out against his words, "Hell nah! I ain't letting you little bastards in here." He said that. They stared at him almost angrily for a few seconds, and then just disappeared. Not like they turned away and walked off, or stepped down from the bottom step. Just poof. Gone. He sat in the passenger seat for a few seconds, trying to figure out what he had just seen, when suddenly, they started pounding on his passenger door right next to him, and yelling, "Let us in, now." He said they didn't sound like kids anymore. With zero hesitation, he jumped from his passenger seat into the driver's seat, threw his rig in gear, and peeled out from there as fast as he could switch gears. He said he didn't slow down until he hit California, and took a different highway back to Tennessee. He did say he saw them again later on that morning, though. He said he'd been trucking the highway for another couple of hours, when in his lights, he saw those same two kids on the side of the road, just standing there staring at his truck. They continued to stare at him the entire time as he passed them, but were gone when he looked for them in the side mirrors. He told us he found another gear in his truck that he didn't even know he had then. This is almost the exact story he told us that day and many times after. Could it have been a nightmare? Not likely, since he was obviously awake when he was driving into Cali that morning. Could it have been a story he made up just to scare us kids? Maybe, but he wasn't really the scary story type, as well as he told us all the same story well into our adult years. Could it have been the hallucinations of an overworked, sleep-deprived mind? Possibly. But He'd worked these hours, and he even drove the same route for many years before and after. Also, the whole black-eyed children phenomenon hadn't even been popularized in the mainstream yet, and wouldn't be for a couple of decades. I'll let you make your own judgment on his story. I'd be interested to know what your take on it is. I apologize for any mistakes I made writing this. I have never been the same since I had a migraine that lasted 3 months many years ago. Luca was named by his creator, Wayne Kletsky, and is part of the Catherine's Collection range of dolls, and as far as we know, he is the only one of his kind that is unique. By that, I mean spirited. When or how he became like this is unknown. He first came to us in 2013. I was looking for a Christmas present for my wife and found him advertised on a local website for $70. I contacted the elderly owner, who told me that his late wife was a doll collector, and she had paid $1,200 for him at an art exhibit in Melbourne, Australia in 2000, and he was a prized possession of hers. He stated that none of his adult children wanted Luca, and he just wanted him to go to a good home, and even offered to give us Luca for free. But we gladly paid for what he was asking. We took him home and set him up in an old antique chair that we had used for other dolls for years without incident. Within hours, I would find he wasn't as I left him. He was looking slightly to the left instead of straight ahead, but didn't think much of it at first, just passing it off as the wind, or our cat had moved him, or perhaps someone had bumped the chair. I carefully lined his chin up with a seam that runs down the front of his chest, once again facing him looking straight ahead. And this continued for weeks, but each time, he would move noticeably more than the last time, including his puppets, and at times his arms and legs. Until it got to the point we would check on him just before we went to bed to only find that in the morning, that his head would be turned 90 degrees. Once again, I would line his chin up with the seam and make sure he was looking straight and adjust his puppets and limbs. While this was going on, the second peak of hauntings was ramping up. It was to the stage if we had 7 haunting occurrences a day, not counting Luca's movement. It was a quiet day, and it was around this time Luca started to get bolder, by moving when someone was in the same room seconds after checking on him. Usually, when you turn your back for a few seconds or walk past him, his head would twist 90 degrees instead of looking straight, and often there would be a strange electrical type of feeling around him while he was active. And this continued on a 7 to 9 day cycle up to the peak of haunting on January 12, 2016, when my wife became only what I can describe as possessed and vanished one night. After this date, Luca was still active while my wife was still missing, but less frequent. Although I have had some success with video captures of Luca, lighting up EMF meters all the way and answering directly to questions using spirit boxes, and also some really strange sound captures including a girl screaming, "Let me out," for 40 minutes straight. A tune whistled very clearly in the early hours of the morning next to him. I have never been able to get him moving on video. Usually when this happens, the camera malfunctions, the file gets corrupted, or the camera gets moved. However, I did capture him removing a sheet off him I put on him once to keep the dust off him. But I did witness him move once. He had an accident. He turned and looked me directly in the face. It was a very quick movement. I no longer video Luca full time, if ever now. because it became too costly. So far, he has claimed 6 sets of cameras, 3 laptops, and 2 tablets. All were brand new and worked perfectly before using them in regards to him. He seems to allow me to record to the point before he has had enough. But to sum up some points about Luca, as to try to keep this as short as possible, he seems to have his own personality and even loves the odd prank. Animals love him. I have seen a cat we had once had embrace him in a bear-type hug, smooching to his face, and our border collie used to lie at his feet as a pup. On at least 2 occasions, we witnessed balls that we had left near him roll towards our cats. One even made a right-angled turn. He doesn't seem evil when he turned his head. It was often towards where my wife sat, staring at her. I feel that he was trying to warn us. Luca seems very shy, and he doesn't like cameras. Luca does things on his own terms, when he is ready. Finally, we just accept that Luca is himself, and no one in our family is afraid of him. Luca and his contempt for camera malfunctions corrupts files. 6 sets of cameras, wireless and standalone, 2 monitors, 2 tablets, 2 laptops, and multiple storage devices, all new, fortunate to last just a few days or weeks to months before dying. I have lost count of the cost. So any video capture of him has come at a cost, and on numerous occasions the file will be corrupted, but every now and then I get lucky. This video shows Luca interfering with cameras. They are usually when he's getting active, and when I first started recording him, the cameras would move off him somehow or simply switch off. This video could run for a good hour or more if I found all of the clips, and is from different wireless and standalone cameras since we had him and stopped recording him. Luca has had other electronics malfunction around him, and I have people tell me their computer or phone have crashed when I have spoken to them about Luca over Messenger, or the numerous times I have mentioned his name on the phone for it to break up or drop out. Yes, Luca seems to be a special little doll.
Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please give a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. Perhaps click the bell for notifications, and remember, hell is empty, and the devils are here.